First, I applied a pink base coat. Then, I dotted black polish in a line. Next, I added white dots right on top of each black dot. With a fine brush, I gently pulled two dots toward the center. Then, I pulled the center of the top dot downward to join them, creating a beautiful leaf-like pattern. Finally, I sealed the design with a glossy top coat. I started by taping the middle and painting the top and bottom in green. Then I added green glitter to make it sparkle. Once it dried, I removed the tape and applied glue in the center. I pressed golden foil on it for a glam touch. Finally, I sealed everything with a glossy coat and done. Perfect for festive vibe. First, I applied a deep blue polish as the base. Next, I dotted white polish in a fan shape on one side of the nail. Right over that, I added small orange dots. Then, using a fine brush, I gently pulled the colors inward toward the center. To finish, I sealed everything with a glossy top coat. And that's it, super simple, clean, and eye-catching. First, I taped 3/4 of the nail and applied a fresh sky blue polish. Once dry, I dabbed silver glitter above the blue for that magical shimmer. After removing the tape, I added a sleek black line for contrast. Then, I filled the remaining space with more silver sparkle. And finally, sealed it all with a glossy top coat. Sparkles shiny, bold, and classy, ready to slay. I applied a deep maroon gel polish on the top half of the nail. Then, I added a sparkling purple shade at the bottom. Using a flat brush, I gently blended the two shades in the center for a smooth gradient. Next, with sky blue polish, I created a simple floral design and added curved leaves on both sides. A few tiny dots were placed for extra detail. To finish, I sealed the design with a glossy top coat, and it's done. I applied a bold pink polish in a curved shape at the top and bottom of the nail. I filled the center with glossy black to create a striking contrast. Then, using a golden glitter liner, I outlined both curves to add shine and definition. To bring a playful touch, I added blue color polka dots above and below the black section. Finally, I sealed the entire design with a glossy top coat for a smooth, finished look. First, I applied maroon on the top, sky blue in the middle, and orange at the bottom. Then I gently blended maroon and blue together, and also blended the blue with the orange to create a smooth gradient. Next, I added a white dot to represent the sun. With black polish, I carefully drew a palm tree to give a sunset vibe. Finally, I sealed the design with a glossy transparent coat. And here's the perfect sunset nail art, simple and stunning. First, I added some sparkle with shiny pink diagonal lines. Then, I outlined each one with bold black strokes to give it a striking look. Right in the center, I placed a bright blue rhinestone for that extra pop. And finally, I sealed it all with a glossy transparent coat. First, I applied sky blue polish as the base. Then, I painted black on the top half. I started by adding sky blue dots over the black area, followed by black dots on the blue part. To finish, I placed a rhinestone in the center and sealed it all with a transparent top coat. I started by applying sky blue at the top and white at the bottom. Using a brush, I softly blended both colors in the center for a dreamy sky effect. Next, I used black polish to draw a girl, first the upper body with two lines, then a skirt, legs, hands, and the head. I filled the top with pink and painted the skirt in violet. Added simple hair details, and finally sealed the design with a glossy top coat. And there you go, a beautiful silhouette nail art with a touch of personality. First, I applied a light violet shade as the base and let it dry completely. Then, using a brush dipped in blue and white polish, I gently dabbed on flower shapes. Next, I added green stems and leaves for a natural touch. To give it a subtle shine, I applied silver chrome pigment at the bottom. Finally, I sealed the design with a glossy top coat, and your delicate floral nail art is ready to bloom. First, I applied a green base coat and let it dry. Next, I dotted pink polish in 3 spots, followed by white and violet dots beside each one. Using a dotting tool, I swirled the colors gently in a circular motion to form blooming roses. Then, with a safety pin, I added tiny green leaves around each flower. Finally, I sealed the design with a clear top coat for a glossy finish, and your delicate floral nail art is ready to shine. I started by applying a dark orange base on the nail. Once it dried, I used a sparkling red polish to create a heart shape on one side. Then, I carefully painted a small girl using white color, placing her as if she was holding the heart. Using black polish, I outlined the girl and the heart to give them definition and life. Finally, I sealed the design with a coat of transparent polish to give it a smooth and glossy finish. With a smooth coat of bright pink polish as your base. Once dry, dab sparkling pink on the lower half for a glittery effect. Now, use white polish to draw delicate flowers and tiny dots on one side. With a safety pin, carefully create cross-shaped dotted flowers over the glitter area. Add a soft pink shade over the larger white flowers to give them depth. Finally, seal everything with a glossy transparent top coat. And your elegant floral sparkle nail art is ready to shine. I started by dividing the nail into 3 layers, deep blue at the top for the sky, light blue in the middle for the ocean, and soft white at the bottom for sandy shores. Once the base dried, I painted a palm tree using green polish and added little green plants around it. Next, I outlined the tree and drew flying birds with black polish to give it a realistic touch. Then I gently cleaned up the edges to sharpen the look. To finish, I applied a glossy top coat to lock in the shine and give it that beachy glow. First, I applied a vibrant pink on the top half and soft white on the bottom half of the nail. After it dried, I grabbed a safety pin to create fine designs, white swirls on pink and pink drops on white. Once the detailing was dry, I used a sponge to dab sparkling red-pink polish, giving it that gorgeous glitter effect. Finally, I sealed the look with a transparent top coat for a glossy and finished shine. First, I applied an orange base coat to the nail. Once it dried, I used white polish to draw 2 diagonal parallel lines across the center of the nail. Inside the space between those lines, I created a crisscross pattern using fine lines. I then filled the crisscross design with a shiny silver polish to give it a bold, metallic effect. Next, using a sponge, I lightly dabbed golden glitter polish on the top and bottom parts of the nail to add sparkle and depth. Finally, I applied a layer of transparent top coat to seal and complete the design with a glossy finish. First, I painted the nail with a bright pink base. Then, I added sparkling red glitter polish on one side for a bold contrast. Over the glitter, I used the same pink polish to draw soft crisscross lines. To give it a lovely, fancy touch, I decorated it with pink rhinestones, the shiny buttons gemstone. Finally, I sealed the design with a transparent top coat for a perfect finish. I started with a base of light blue polish, then added dark blue on one half of the nail to create a soft contrast. Next, I dotted a small white circle using a fine tip, followed by a larger white circle over it. From the center of both circles, I drew thin white lines to form a delicate floral burst. On one side, I added a white dot and connected it to the center with a line. On the other side, I dotted 5 small white dots to keep the design balanced. Then, I placed a shiny blue rhinestone in the center of the flower for that extra sparkle. Finally, I sealed the design with a transparent top coat. This dreamy nail art gives a cool and calming vibe, perfect for a fresh look. I started by painting the nail with a shiny white base, followed by a vibrant pink color. Next, I used yellow polish to create a delicate flower design in the center, with additional patterns on both sides. Above the flower, I drew 4 simple yellow lines to enhance the look. For a touch of sparkle, I placed a shiny blue rhinestone at the center of the flower. Finally, I sealed the design with a transparent top coat for a glossy and elegant finish. First, I painted half of the nail with a soft pink base. Then, I added sparkling blue cross lines for a striking effect. To enhance the look, I outlined the blue lines with shining white polish. Next, I added a shiny blue rhinestone at the center to give a classy touch. Finally, I sealed everything with a coat of transparent polish for a glossy finish. First, I applied 3 vibrant colors, blue, green, and yellow, side by side to create a soft gradient look. Next, I added bold black crisscross lines for a modern, abstract design. To give it more detail, I drew thinner black lines over the same pattern, adding depth and style. Once everything dried, I sealed the design with a layer of transparent polish for a glossy finish. I painted the top with a calm blue and the bottom with warm brown, like sky and sand. Once it dried, I gently dabbed white to mimic soft sea foam or clouds. Then, using black polish, I drew a graceful palm tree swaying in the breeze. To finish, I added a coat of transparent polish, and just like that, my tropical escape came alive on a single nail. I started with green paint for the pineapple's ground, then filled in yellow for the fruit. A touch of maroon on top added a juicy twist. To give it detail, I drew thin yellow lines to form that perfect pineapple texture. And finally, I sealed it with a transparent coat, fresh, fruity, and fun on my fingertips. I painted my nail pink, then added tiny black dots to shape cute circles. A touch of pink on top made them bloom. More dots on the sides and ends added flair. Finished with a clear coat, simple, stylish, and all me. Tropical sunset on my nail. I started by painting the sky with blue on top and yellow below, blending the two to create a dreamy sunset effect. I dotted soft red and yellow to mimic the warmth of the setting sun. After sealing it with a transparent polish and letting it dry, I carefully drew two palm trees in black, standing tall in the evening breeze. To finish, I added one more coat of transparent polish for that perfect glossy look. I started by painting the bottom half of my nail brown. Then I added two big brown dots for ears and tiny black dots to make the eyes. Next, I painted white over the lower half to shape the bear's snout. With black, I carefully drew the nose and mouth. After it all dried, I added a clear coat, and my adorable little bear was ready to say hi. video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Lifestyle Personal for more creative ideas. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.